G'day peeps, my name's Scripps and I like anime. A lot. You could even consider me a connoisseur of anime since I myself cried 3 times to Nizugoi and had an overall decent viewing experience with the 2016 Berserk series. I think anime is capable of so much that I at times even enjoy it more than Western series and movies. It's the reason why every time I've gone to the cinema to see what big budget beast Hollywood's cooked up next on the assembly line, that I've typically ended up walking out of the place thinking, that was decent. Or occasionally, oh, that was horrible, why don't they just make movies like they make anime? Which is an interesting question. Why are Western movies and TV shows not like anime? And by that, by that, I'm not saying American television lacks anatomically incorrect googly eyes, sailor uniforms, or big 2D plotlines, you harem-addicted virgin. What I'm saying is that there's some interesting characteristics to the medium anime other than simply being Japanese animation that could have been beneficial to the Western movie industry, but were never really implemented. Like the high variety anime is famous for. They can pretty much target and hit any audience out there like a heat-seeking missile. And that's not even really an exaggeration if you think about it. We got bear things flying with umbrellas, epic high school cup disputes with clothes as the main antagonist, cute girls in panzer tanks, cute girls in motorcycle tanks traveling across the post-apocalypse, big burly men, the sexiest of ice skaters, OP Mr. Clean, big people eating small people, badass sports, and straight up ass sports. Where else do you get that much variety? I mean, except maybe video games. Certainly not the expensive end of the Western movie world. Like seriously fellas, like what do you guys got to present for yourselves? Superhero movies? Oh yeah, those milked harder than a cow from a country without animal cruelty laws? Shameful Hollywood. Then there's the other benefit from anime, which is either more boring or interesting depending on the person because it's about money. 2D animation is cheap. Well, not really, but definitely compared to this. While yes, I know anime is low cost, they usually do the borderline slave labor salary, and that an actual anime series profit is quite difficult info to get a hold of, for me at least, then we know for sure that a lot of anime movies have profited big time, with movies like Spirited Away and Your Name cashing in more than 10 times their budget, which is a lot compared to Marvel's Age of Ultron earning about 3.5 times its budget. And that's only with Japan as a primary audience. Imagine if the vastness of America or the entire Western world took that place. Then even with many millions sacrificed to actually give the animators something along the lines of human rights, that would still be very profitable to the movie industry. Which leads me right to my next question. If anime as a medium is proven so effective, not just as a method of profit, but as a flexible creative medium that we know there's a demand for, especially today as anime is getting traction in the West faster than ever before, then why didn't the ideas of anime originate in a Western country like America? To answer this question, then we gotta take a look at Western culture and Japanese culture and find out when this one started going down the path of suck by enforcing the idea that animation is a kid's medium. And to do that, then we gotta go all the way back to the 1930s America in the so-called golden age of animation. Because we know it wasn't a golden age for anything else. When professional world conqueror Walt Disney decided that he was no longer interested in sticking to short film animations and started focusing on producing expensive, feature-length animated films, something that would still take Japan 25 years to do. But Disney being so far ahead in the animation business is actually kind of a problem because their target audience was children and would always remain children. The company simply never really grew the balls to take a serious shot at integrating complex stories into cartoons and kept it simple for the kiddies. So as soon as technology allowed the movie industry to create these more advanced works for the grown-ups, then a rift would gradually form between these two types of medium. The idea that cartoons are for kiddies and adults are stuck with films got decades to grow into Western culture, as Disney and its principle would remain unchallenged in the field of Western animation even today. In 2018, the world looks quite a bit different, but it's easy to see the difference that these old ideas have had on not just Hollywood, but on modern Western culture and what adults find socially acceptable to watch. Like, I'm pretty sure it's a social felony somewhere to watch the latest Pixar as a salaryman without bringing at least one kid with you. And it's also a pretty good explanation why it took so long for Your Name to get to American cinemas, because I bet the people handling it were like, can we even do this? Is it legal to release this to the American public with a non-children target audience? But it ended up fine, because everybody loved it. In private. Kinda. Because most of us probably enjoyed it without actually going to the cinema because that would feel a tad awkward. Hey, I'm not judging, I've secretly purchased the DVD and hid it in my room. Anyway, technology and what's possible to get on the big screen has also changed a lot in the past few decades. And if a theory that I came up with is correct, then I believe that the movie industry has found a way around this culture handicap, if I may. But it's a theory, okay? It's a theory. There are no sources for this one, baby, it's just me. So if there's any part of the video where you should be paying attention for stuff to angrily write about in the comments, then it's right about now. But I believe that because people love fantastic and unrealistic stories and fictional worlds, but at the same time have grown up with the idea that cartoons are socially unacceptable for adults, then the movie industry has decided to take a much more expensive route around this. CGI, ladies and gentlemen. And while yes, good CGI can look stunning and it can be cool to occasionally just watch a movie just to drool over the eye candy quality visuals, then if you think about it, then it's the only way to tell these unrealistic stories on film without it being obviously 2 or 3D animated. Or should I say the only way to avoid the movie being off-putting to the Western adult demographic. Snobby bastards. It's why people love Marvel movies, it's why people love Pirates of the Caribbean, it's why people love Avatar, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, you name it. All these movies are borderline ridiculous in cost to produce and are created, if my theory is correct, primarily to allow older generations to enjoy these fantastic stories. But at the same time, then it's why most of the Western movie industry is so horrified at the idea of creating anything new or out of the box compared to something they know will be successful. Because there's so much cold cash on the table. Like sure, losing 30 million on an animation, that can really suck, especially for a Japanese company, but oof. That would be bad. The Japanese animation industry never really ran into the same issue with creative flexibility with their medium though. Which could actually be explained by exactly what we just learned, that they don't spend anywhere near the same amount of stupid cash on anime compared to big Hollywood pieces, meaning that experimenting with new content would be a lot less risky, but this difference wasn't the sole contributor to the crazy anime variety of today. Because as much as we like to believe that Japan is a society gone mad because it's stranded on an island in isolation, much like another one, then the Japanese aren't actually crazy artists who only care about upping each other in creativity. They care about money as much as the rest of us, so they started using the same strategy as us and based a lot of their films and series on ideas they knew could be successful. Fortunately for the Japanese, however, then a special man appeared to make sure that there's a lot of ideas and material out there to work with. Meet the big daddy of manga and anime culture, Osamu Tezuka. Did you say Hayao Miyazaki? No. You hush now, baby. Does this man look like a god to you? No, that's this man. So you may think that I'm exaggerating, but this man's influence actually earned him the nicknames the father of anime or the god of manga. Comic artist Tezuka's work stood out because he visualized dramatic movements in sequence in his comic strips as if they were film frames, much like we see in modern manga. Him and his increasing following also laid the foundation for the entire Japanese manga culture, as they started creating comics of every genre ranging from science fiction to drama, comedy, romance, you name it. And manga quickly became just as thick in variety as movies and books. The man also created the first weekly running television anime based on his own manga comic known as Tetsuwan Atom or Astro Boy back in '63. And it didn't take long before the Japanese started seeing tons of animes airing on TV, of which a lot of them were adaptations of already existing manga. Which is a really freaking smart business strategy if you think about it. Manga culture is even easier to adapt to television than books, because it's like an ocean of already visualized, already stylized, and already rated in popularity storyboards for your series and movies. Madness level ideas that one would never dare pitch to a director have now been produced and shown to worldwide audiences because they were based on existing popularity for the manga. Anime studios have even made so many crazy adaptations at this point that they've started making a lot of their own, allowing animes like Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill to actually get pitched and produced without pre-existing manga. Like, I don't think that's even possible to pitch Kill la Kill to anyone in the world except the anime industry. Cool tomboy uses sexy vampire lingerie to kill clothing. No. Nude high schoolers save world from alien clothing invasion. You know, this looked bad on paper, but this just sounds like bad porn titles.
Don't leave! Put me on! Put me on!
No! You perv!
Wear me and feed me blood! I don't want to go back to sleep!
But anyway, so now we know that the variety and creativity is primarily rooted in the absolutely exploding manga culture that constantly brings new ideas from every corner of Japan and even beyond. And that we have glorious Osamu-sama and his followers to thank for it, as they revolutionized comics to be aimed at more demographics than just kids. But there is still something missing, because we needed those few demonstrations to get the point across and show not just Japan, but the world that anime is not the same as Disney cartoons. And those miracles descended from the heavens in the form of 2 feature-length anime films that got booming popularity overseas. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, and of course Akira. As one of the gold-shitting director Hayao Miyazaki's earliest works, then Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, Jesus, what a name. And its message of anti-war sentiments and environmentalism woven into a complex story made quite a few American parents question if this whole weird Chinese cartoon thing was actually for kids. But question was good enough, because just a few years later Akira blew open the case of that suspicion by introducing mature content like violence, genocide, weapons of mass destruction, gritty dystopian future setting, and even smacked in that tad bit of tit for good measure. And even though these quote-unquote cartoon movies obviously weren't aimed at a kids demographic, then they were a huge success, both domestically in Japan and here in the West. Anime had finally made an introduction in the Western world. And well, yes, some could argue that Dragon Ball is the most influential anime of all time by being the granddad of shonen, or even Sailor Moon for being the peak popularity of shoujo, then it was these two movies that created a sensible rift between anime and kids cartoons and helped establish what anime is capable of, and turned it into a multi-age demographic medium. Wait, holy shit, was that it? Okay, well, there you go, the main differences that led to anime being Japanese. There were a few more points that I wanted to go over in details, but I just didn't really have time for, like how the American model for series focuses on pilot episodes to grab people's attention, and how this hurts the Western story variety. And also how the Japanese just don't give a shit and allow more mature stuff to be kids rated. But I kind of feel like I've already tortured future me enough with the editing nightmare. I'm just a big fan of alternate history and the explanation behind how things got to where they are. It's cool to find myself just researching Western culture and Japanese film history to realize just how influential something like a foreign country's entertainment medium could be. And how a couple of people and their different views on what animation is capable of defined their entire country's viewpoint on it as well. But remember, this is still the words of a guy who's in a room who's researched the topic for a bit, so don't take everything I say as cold hard facts, because if you do, then you're kind of an idiot. But please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to see if anyone actually has a different opinion on this, but that's practically all I got. Thank you all so much for watching, and God praise 2D plotlines.